Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast.
Today we're focusing on PayPal and its upcoming earnings to watch.
This is definitely a big one. Before we get into what to look for, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment to support the show. And if there's a specific company you want us to look into, leave it in the comments below.
All right, so let's break down the key things we'll be watching for in this report. So the main event, it's confirmed, Tuesday, October 28, 2025. It'll be released before the market opens. And this covers the third quarter, the one ending September 30th.
Got it, October 28th.
Yeah. And for you, the listener, this Q3 release, well, it's pretty crucial. It's really the moment of truth for seeing if the company's claims about, sustained profitable growth and keeping users engaged actually hold water.
Right, especially after they've spent so much time this year trying to sell the market on this turnaround strategy.
Exactly.
And that context is, well, it's everything, really. Because if you look back just at Q2 2025, that report was actually a strong beat.
It was, yeah.
We saw, 5% revenue growth and a really fantastic 19% jump in earnings per share year over year. And that success wasn't just luck. It came down to better transaction margin dollars. They did that big revamp of the checkout experience.
Right, the checkout flow.
And they had good expansion in Venmo and their PSP, the payment service provider business. So yeah, Q2 really set a high bar, maybe even an aggressive one for this quarter.
Definitely set a high bar. And following that strong Q2, what's really interesting is how management decided to signal their confidence, through capital management.
The buybacks.
Exactly. They got pretty aggressive with the share buyback program, repurchased $1.5 billion worth of stock just in Q2.
Wow, $1.5 billion.
Yeah. And for you listening, this isn't just like routine stuff. When management buys back shares on that scale, it's a strong signal they think the stock is undervalued. They've already cut the number of outstanding shares by about 7% this year through these buybacks.
Okay, so that scale definitely signals confidence.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets a bit complicated, maybe. Because that confidence signal was kind of offset by some insider activity back in August. We saw several execs sell off about $863,000 in shares.
Right, I saw that. Pre-planned sales, though.
They were pre-planned, yes. That's important. But the sources we looked at were pretty clear that it still raised, and I quote, some investor eyebrows, especially during a market correction.
Yeah, the timing wasn't great.
It makes you wonder, right? If management truly thinks the stock's a great buy, why are insiders selling, even if it was scheduled beforehand?
That's the tension, exactly. That's what you have to kind of grapple with going into this report. It really speaks to that whole debate about the stock's, intrinsic value versus the operational risks. But, okay, let's maybe set aside the C-suite signals for a moment and look at where the growth is actually supposed to be coming from.
Yeah, let's look at the engines, because there are metrics there that might justify management's confidence. So the first thing that kind of jumps out is buy now, pay later, the BNPL segment.
Right, BNPL.
That part isn't just growing. It apparently boasted more than 20% year-over-year growth in transaction volume.
20%, that's huge.
Yeah, especially considering how crowded and, frankly, competitive that BNPL space is now. That kind of volume increase really shows the product's still relevant, still sticky.
And that volume ties directly into a pretty clever strategic move they made earlier this year.
The Blue Owl deal.
Exactly. The $7 billion receivables partnership with Blue Owl. This is, you really need to understand this one. Essentially, they offloaded a huge chunk of their consumer loan risk, the receivables, onto Blue Owl.
Okay.
And that's not just moving money around. It's about optimizing capital efficiency. Big time.
So they free up cash.
They free up $7 billion in cash that was tied up backing those loans, and now they can redirect that immediately. Fund more buybacks, speed up tech development, go after partnerships.
Right. It lets them grow consumer lending without holding all that risk themselves. Makes sense. So if they're successfully offloading risk and freeing up capital, the next question is, where are they putting that money to fight off the competition? This push for efficiency and growth, it must be showing up in their product strategy leading into Q3.
Oh, definitely. The focus has been pretty intense on streamlining processes and integrating technology deeper.
What's the biggest shift operationally we should watch?
I'd say the strategic partnership expansion, specifically deepening the integration with Google.
The Google partnership.
Yeah. This isn't just like adding another payment button somewhere. It's about pushing forward a real omni-channel, seamless payment strategy.
Okay.
By embedding themselves deeper into Google's ecosystem, they're aiming straight at competitors who maybe only have simple point-of-sale stuff. They're trying to make it frictionless for people to use their branded checkout everywhere, in stores, online.
And that's where the product differentiation gets, well, pretty tangible and honestly quite interesting.
How so?
Well, they're continuously rolling out those AI-powered security alerts. That's a feature that builds trust, right? And stickiness, especially when everyone's worried about data security.
That's a great point. Trust is huge in payments.
Yeah.
And then there's the launch of PayPal World.
Right, connecting 2 billion users globally. What does that actually mean for an average user, though?
Well, it's more than just a fancy name. It's their global wallet network, and it saw wider international availability this quarter.
Okay.
Practically speaking, it's a massive platform upgrade. It lets users manage multiple currencies, handle cross-border payments more easily, consolidate different payment methods, including digital assets, by the way.
Crypto integration, too.
Yeah, it's like an architectural shift. They want to be the global financial identity layer, going way beyond just processing transactions.
Okay, that makes the focus on expanding crypto payment features and enhancing the BNPL offering make a lot more sense within that whole PayPal World idea.
Exactly.
They're trying to position themselves as the complete digital wallet, technologically superior to traditional banks or just niche payment apps.
But despite all these strategic moves, all this capital maneuvering, it begs the question, is the market actually buying this turnaround story?
Yeah, because we're seeing very conflicting signals from analysts right now. It's definitely contributing to the volatility.
Very conflicting.
Let's talk about that valuation debate. So on the bullish side, you had Citigroup recently upgrade them to hold. They recognized the operational improvements. And at the same time, KBW cited a compelling valuation. They pointed out the price-to-earnings ratio is below the industry average, suggesting, maybe the stock's cheap relative to its potential.
Okay, so some optimism there, but you've got to balance that, right?
Louis.
Because on the cautious side, you have Goldman Sachs. They reiterated a really cautious view, kept their $70 price target, basically saying, hey, this rally might be running out of gas.
Right. And Truist was wary, too.
Yeah. Truist remained cautious. They cited ongoing issues with margin visibility and, of course, the competitive threats. Big tech, specialized fintechs, they're all nipping at their heels.
So this mix of opinions from major firms, that's exactly why the stock's been bouncing around so much lately.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's try to strip away the analyst opinions, the market noise. What does this all boil down to in terms of actual numbers? What do we, the investors, need to watch closely on October 28th?
Okay, the absolute crucial financial metrics are net revenues and total payment volume growth, TPV.
TPV, the total dollar amount of transactions.
Exactly. If TPV growth is strong, it kind of validates the new checkout experience, the Google integration, all that.
And if it lags?
If TPV lags, it suggests those big strategic investments aren't really translating into user activity yet, which would be a problem.
And crucially, we have to look specifically at performance within branded checkout and those BNPL products, right?
Absolutely critical. Since the company has put so much focus, capital, and marketing into those areas, their performance is the clearest signal of whether those efforts are actually paying off, profitably.
Makes sense. So, based on the data, can we map out some scenarios for listeners, maybe with probabilities?
Yeah, we can outline potential scenarios based on what the sources and market consensus suggest. Let's start with the middle ground, the most likely, maybe.
Okay.
The base case. We're putting about a 30% probability on this. This would mean performance pretty much in line with recent quarters.
So numbers like?
Net revenue around $7.2 billion and earnings per share around 1.3. If this happens, expect probably a muted stock reaction. Not much excitement either way.
Okay, 30% base case. What about the upside?
The bull case. The sources actually give this the highest probability right now, at 40%.
Oh, interesting. Leaning optimistic.
Leaning optimistic, yeah. But it depends on strong TPV growth and seeing some immediate positive impact from those new partnerships we talked about.
And the numbers for a bull case?
We'd need to see revenue over $7.5 billion and EPS above 1.555. A beat like that would likely send the stock up significantly. It would really confirm that turnaround narrative.
Okay, 40% bull, that leaves the downside.
Right, the bear case also sits at a 30% probability. This happens if they miss on both revenue and EPS, likely due to increased competition hitting their margins harder than expected.
And the numbers there?
Revenue below $7.0 billion and EPS under 1.11. If that happens, well, expect the market to punish the stocks severely. It would suggest their big strategic bets aren't paying off fast enough.
So that distribution, 40% bull, 30% base, 30% bear, tells you the market's hopeful, but also really sensitive to any slip-up.
Exactly. Very sensitive.
But let's look beyond just the earnings day itself for a sec. There are other things happening soon that could affect the stock price, regardless of the Q3 numbers.
That's right. Over the next 3 months, keep an eye on key institutional activity. First, there's a Nasdaq 100 ETF rebalancing coming up.
Index rebalancing. That can cause short-term flows.
It can. And maybe more importantly, we have the major institutional buyer 13F filings due.
Right, the 13 Fs, showing what the big funds are doing.
Yeah. For listeners who don't track this stuff daily, 13F show what huge investors, hedge funds, mutual funds have been buying or selling. And since PayPal's been buying back its own stocks so aggressively.
It'll be critical to see if the big institutional smart money is also buying in at these levels or if they're getting out.
Exactly. It's a key sentiment indicator.
In connecting this to the rumor mill,
Yeah.
there's always a steady stream of speculation around this stock right now, isn't there?
Always. We've seen ongoing whispers about potential M&A, mergers and acquisitions, maybe to broaden their AI capabilities or their crypto footprint.
That makes sense. A move to counter competitors who are pushing AI hard in finance.
Then there's also that industry chatter about maybe an imminent expanded rollout of crypto payment features, not just holding crypto, but using it for mainstream checkout.
That would be a significant step.
It would. And you can't ignore those persistent rumors about potential C-suite changes, maybe shading up product leadership to push innovation even harder.
Yeah, during a turnaround, the market always looks for that sense of urgency for management.
True. And finally, let's mention the speculation about them maybe negotiating exclusive in-store payment deals with major global retailers.
Oh, exclusive deals.
Yeah. If they could lock down even 1 or 2 big exclusive partnerships like that, it could drive huge merchant volume and instantly validate those omni-channel efforts like the Google integration.
Okay, so putting it all together, looking at all the source material, the overall outlook seems to land firmly on neutral, right?
Yeah, I'd agree. Neutral feels right. It's this balance, driven by the ongoing product innovation, BNPL, crypto, that big PayPal world upgrade.
All backed up by those heavy share buybacks trying to stabilize the price.
Right, but then you have the risks, the mixed analyst views we discussed, and just general macro volatility that could throw a wrench in things, regardless of company performance. Those are very real near-term risks.
So what's the final takeaway for investors listening?
Ultimately, the final focus shouldn't just be on the Q3 numbers themselves, but really on the guidance. What does the company forecast for Q4 and heading into 2026?
Guidance is key.
It's absolutely key. The market is so sensitive right now that any significant beat on guidance, or conversely, any cut to guidance, well, it could cause major ripples, not just for PayPal, but across the whole payment sector. It could potentially drive a major stock re-rating either up or down later in 2025.